Welcome to the Cheating Secrets channel. We hope you enjoy today's story. There's a saying, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. I believe it to be true. In my life, I have always tried to act with integrity, guided by the golden rule. Treat people the way you want them to treat you. It's my motto, the principle I live by, and I strive to do everything possible to live up to it. So why is it so damn hard to live a good life? I've never deceived anyone in my life, and I've never spoken ill of anyone. If someone is wrong, with whom I disagree, I present my arguments and facts to them in a polite and accessible manner. When I'm wrong, it's never been a problem for me to admit my mistake. In other words, when faced with a problem, I behave honestly and do the right thing. So, I was just living my life, ignoring any warning signs, when what happened, happened. And it was an event that changed my whole life. I had just returned home from a 2-day conference in Texas when my wife caught me off guard. As I walked into the house, Casey, the aforementioned wife, and our kids were sitting at the kitchen table. The atmosphere was festive. They were all laughing and joking. When I asked, "What's so funny here?" their mood changed. Casey told me, nodding toward an empty chair, "Billy, why don't you have a seat?" Not really asking, but doing it in a somewhat commanding manner. Unsuspecting of anything amiss, I sat down, and she waved a stack of papers in front of my face. "Billy, take these and read them," she demanded, slapping them down on the table in front of me. "I'm not asking for anything except the house. And one more thing, among the other papers, there are also adoption documents. I want Jeff to adopt the children. I know you want the best for them, so just sign this, and we can move forward." Casey delivered her seemingly rehearsed speech, looking as cool as a cucumber. My wife, with whom we've lived together for 12 years, just handed me divorce papers, along with forms for the adoption of my 3 children. My son, Devin, looked at me with a slight smirk on his face. Devin was 10 years old. Joy, my daughter, didn't even bother to look at me. She was 9 and too busy listening to her iPod to even feel anything about losing her father. Patrick, my 7-year-old son, turned out to be the only one with something to say. "Dad, Jeff has a huge house, and we all like it," explained Patrick his joy, as if everything was supposed to get much better from it. I just sat and watched Casey and the kids, as if they're all just going crazy. Maybe it's PMS or early menopause, I thought, or maybe this bitch has bipolar disorder. Hell, she's probably high or drunk. Nope, I don't feel like she's reeking of alcohol. Then where did all this crap about divorce come from? Seeing that I wasn't reacting, Casey shrugged, gathered the documents from the table, and threw them onto the counter. Instead, she laid out a check for half of the money from our bank accounts in front of me. "All right, you can read the papers later. Here, take your check, Billy. And look, don't forget it. Kids, come on, get up, take your father's bags to his car," demanded Casey, clapping her hands energetically and shooing them from their seats. Incredible, damn it. They packed all my things even before I got home. And then they set up an ambush before suddenly attacking and shooting me point blank with a large caliber gun. "Casey, do you seriously think I'm going somewhere?" I finally asked her with a slightly threatening tone. "Yes, Bill, you're leaving? Haven't you been listening?" Casey answered, irritated and speaking as if scolding a disobedient child. "Casey, this is actually my family's home. My parents allowed me to live here long before we got married. And I don't recall your name being mentioned on any documents related to this house." I gradually raised my voice, reminding her of something she seemed to have slightly forgotten. "I don't know what the hell happened that made you want a divorce, but you'll never take my parents' house. So you can hit the road, but I'm staying here, got it?" I snapped, unable to contain myself. Casey rolled her eyes and, realizing she wouldn't win this argument, changed her orders and shouted to the children to pack their things. They'd have to change their plans and go home to Jeff, she declared towards the hallway. "Casey, who the hell is this Jeff anyway?" I now had the chance to ask. "Bill, are you an idiot?" Casey seethed through gritted teeth. Her escalating annoyance turned into undisguised contempt. "Jeff is the guy who fucked me senseless while your dumb ass was stuck at work every day." Casey spat out with some sadistic pleasure and a smirk to match. She seemed completely unapologetic or remorseful. There was nothing on her face but an expression of disdain and contempt towards me. I looked at my children, who had reappeared in the kitchen, seeking their support once again. My daughter just yelled at her brothers to hurry up, then turned to me. "Dad," Joy said, "Jeff can give us a better life. Besides, Mom loves him, and so do we." My sons nodded vigorously in agreement with their sister. I got up, brushed past Casey indifferently, leaving the kitchen, then walked to the door and swung it open. They all grabbed their bags and headed towards Casey's car. "Damn it, Casey, don't touch that car," I shouted after that bunch, stepping onto the porch. "I paid for it, and it's registered in my name. Get the hell out with your rat kids. Call your asshole and have him pick up all of you pathetic bastards." Casey and the kids glanced back at me, and all of them, my former family, smirking, flipped me the bird. Slamming the door, I was beside myself with rage. So I busted my ass for this family, and they ditched me for some asshole with money? Well, to blow off steam, I did what any normal guy would do in such a situation. Yeah, bro, you guessed it. I went and got shit-faced, heroically annihilating the available alcohol supplies in the house. In the end, I passed out face first on the tile, next to the washing machine. For the first time in my life, I hated someone. Of course, first and foremost, I passionately loathed that goat fucker named Jeff. But I was even more furious and disgusted with my apparently now ex-family. I realized it wasn't just about the rich bastard. My so-called family had decided to betray me. The next morning, once I sobered up, I got myself together, then went online and, after some browsing, found a lawyer. I scheduled a meeting with him for noon the following day. Since they confessed to loving this Jeff so much, I decided to give them what they asked for. My lawyer reviewed the agreement left by my wife yesterday and advised me to sign it before Casey changed her mind. Okay, I put my scribbles in all the necessary places, and the lawyer sent the papers back. Casey seemed to be so enamored with her rich Pinocchio and his wooden dignity that she didn't even demand child support from me. In the blink of an eye, with a stroke of the pen, I no longer had a wife or children. My former family just up and tossed me aside like a stale crust of bread. So much for all that blah 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 about staying together until the kids grow up and move out of the nest, or the empty dreams of growing old together. Screw all those foolish and ludicrous fantasies. 6 months later, the divorce became final. As they say, everything changes with time, and I changed too. What I did was dive headfirst into my work. I went back to college and earned a master's degree and then a doctorate. Now I was known as Dr. William Capps, with the solid addition of Doctor of Philosophy in accounting trailing behind. I know most people consider accounting a pretty dull subject, but on the other hand, my life overall was just like that, except for what my former family did to me. Nevertheless, accounting was my style, what I really enjoyed doing. Armed with my doctorate, I decided to open my own office. My strategy involved providing high-quality service, offering personalized attention to affluent clients from the upper echelons of the middle class. Gradually, thanks to word-of-mouth referrals, my client base began to grow. By the end of the second year of my practice, I had amassed quite a decent fortune, and I also met a very lovely lady named Patty. She had everything I was looking for in a woman. She was hardworking, enjoyed the same things I did, and on top of that, Patty loved taking care of the household. Patty was slightly taller than Casey, with alluring curves in all the right places. By the end of the 4th year of operation, my firm had grown to such an extent that we needed space to expand the office. Instead of continuing to rent from someone else, I weighed the future benefits and bought a 5-story standalone office building. Patty and I loved our new headquarters so much that we even held our wedding on the 4th floor. It was a small but festive occasion for the two of us and the few guests we invited to our intimate celebration. We must have had too much fun at our wedding and the night after it, because a few months later, Patty turned out to be pregnant. I would have gladly spent more time alone with my wife, but sometimes you have to make do with what life throws at you. Soon there would be 3 of us, and over the past 6+ years, my life had truly been on the upswing. Needless to say, I was surprised, no, shocked, when one day I was served with papers for double alimony payments. Suddenly emerging from oblivion, Casey demanded $3,000 a month from me as child support, along with an additional $432,000. Apparently, She calculated this as missed opportunity. 4. The entire time, she was cozying up to her fat cat. What's his name? Jeff. I couldn't help but laugh at this news. God, I hadn't seen or heard from this mercenary gang in 7 whole years, and the first thing they want is money. When I handed the papers to my lawyer, he reviewed them. Then, after finishing laughing, picked up the phone and contacted Casey's lawyer. According to what he learned from his colleague, by this point Casey was bankrupt and alone, but she heard through the grapevine that I had become very successful as the owner of a thriving business. Such news wounded her pride on one hand and ignited her greedy instincts on the other. To her great disappointment, she also found out that I remarried and that my wife and I already have 1 child and another one on the way to Casey's husband. That same moneybags. Jeff was all for screwing Casey in every way imaginable, but he wasn't thrilled about family life. With 3 demanding brats, so one fine day he just vanished without a trace. A week later, Casey was served divorce papers. Naturally, the freedom-loving prick refused to pay child support. To accomplish this, he found some sneaky way to invalidate the adoption. Jeff convinced the judge that Casey forced him to sign the adoption papers, giving him an ultimatum. Either he signs the adoption papers, or he loses everything he had worked so hard for. So, allegedly, he had no choice but to put his signature on the documents. Now that their marriage was official and all the money the hen and her chickens had wasted, Casey's next target seemed to be me. The ex-wife's tactic was to involve my parents in this matter. As it turned out later, she had been in touch with them since she left me. On one hand, one could understand my parents. They wanted to remain part of their grandchildren's lives. On the other hand, my mother and father didn't say a word to me about continuing to communicate with this vixen all this time. It was an unpleasant discovery for me. Casey skillfully played the role of a broken wife who had made a foolish mistake. My parents fell for this bait like 2 starving piranhas, swallowing the hook, line, and sinker in one gulp. In other words, they were completely on her side. First, my father came to me. He spoke to me about forgiveness and doing what's right in life. About how if he were in my shoes, he would definitely try to find a way to restore the family. Somewhere in the midst of his lecturing, I pointed out the fact that I now have another family and a new beloved wife. At the same time, I tried to remind him of how Casey and the kids had treacherously abandoned me, ignoring my arguments as if he hadn't heard them. My father advised me to man up, pull myself together, and fix my marriage with Casey. Everything will be fine with Patty. She can start over, he said benevolently. You just have to take care of the kids and pay child support. I looked at my father as if he were crazy. For the first time in my life, I lost respect for the elder of the Caps. Nevertheless, this didn't stop me from personally reaching the door, opening it, and politely asking my dad to leave. Next came my mother. She entered the house with hefty guns in her hands. She appeared with great determination and energy, wielding a weighty trump card and not thinking about the consequences. Mom firmly laid out the condition for me. If I didn't take Casey back, then I would have to move out of the house so they could give it to her and their beloved grandchildren. I couldn't believe my ears or my eyes that these were my parents. Things were going great for my company, so I simply went and bought my own house. A week after I had to endure parental lectures, I received an eviction notice, graciously giving me a month to gather my belongings and leave. And I didn't object, since the deal to sell my new house was closing the next day after receiving that message. It's amazing, but when you pay in cash, people are willing to bend over backwards to make everything go smoothly and as quickly as possible. My parents returned to their old house a week later, only to find it empty. Casey and her brood moved in the next day. 2 years have passed since then, and during this time, I haven't spoken once with my parents. Casey, or her children, Patty and I were doing great. For kids were running and crawling around our new house, and business at our firm was going excellently. This year, I was recognized as the businessman of the year in our region. A very nice picture of me and my smiling family appeared in the local newspaper. I proudly accepted the award, and in my acceptance speech, I attributed much of the credit for its achievement to my bashful wife. Without my wife Patty, I told the numerous audience and guests at the ceremonial dinner, there would be no award for me. My wife is my support. As I was delivering my speech, my dear, Mom and Dad unexpectedly burst into the hall, along with Casey. My ex-wife decisively made her way to the stage, where she publicly labeled me a failed father. Pretending to be a victim, with crocodile tears in her eyes, she told the society that I shamelessly and cruelly abandoned our children and her. In the culmination of her accusatory speech, Casey tragically exclaimed that it was Patty who destroyed her marriage. I think my lawyer must have prepared for this scandal in advance. Somehow he anticipated that Casey would inevitably seize the opportunity to strike at my reputation and simultaneously publicize her false story. The lawyer pulled a remote control from his pocket and aimed it at the projector located at the end of the hall. As we know, private detectives can be quite inventive in gathering compromising material on various scoundrels and what advanced technologies they use in the process. It's truly astonishing. On the blank wall of the hall, which immediately caught the attention of everyone present, a recording of Casey's conversation with her lawyer began to play, a conversation that took place in the parking lot in front of his office. These two were discussing ways in which she intended to annul the adoption papers I signed. Long ago, at her own request, Casey promised her lawyer that if he succeeded in court in annulling these documents, the trouble she caused him earlier today would pale in comparison to what he would receive from her when the sought-after documents were thrown into the trash. Then they discussed how to manipulate it so that Patty would be drugged and raped. Subsequently, they planned to send me a video to see evidence of Patty cheating on me, after which Casey would appear on the scene with her comfort and sympathy, reclaiming my heart. That's the plan they concocted. Finally, she also told her accomplice lawyer how she manipulated my parents, making them her puppets, otherwise they wouldn't be able to see their grandchildren. When the short video ended, lawyer Casey attempted to slip away through the fortunately, his escape was halted by the powerful biceps of the police chief. It seems that several judges, also present in the courtroom, showed some interest in this incriminating recording. I cast a long glance at my disappointed parents, then approached my wife and children, helped them put on their coats, and we left. On the street, I kissed Patty, and we all headed towards the sea air. As soon as I finished settling the children in the back seat, my parents called out to me. Without looking back at them, I took my place as the driver, slammed the door shut, and drove my family home. I didn't see them again until I was summoned to court to testify against Casey and her lawyer. When I finished with the formalities and stepped out of the courtroom, my father was waiting for me outside. "Billy, I can't express how sorry your mother and I are," he began with a pleading tone. "But please, son, give us a chance to try and make things right. You have 3 children who miss you and suffer without their father. We have 4 grandchildren we've never even met. Son, you need to find it in your heart to forgive us and bring everyone together again. The whole big family." I looked at him heavily and turned away. Taking a few steps towards the exit, I stopped, nonetheless, and, turning back, told him I'd think about it. Casey was sentenced to 3 months of imprisonment and 4 years of probation. Her dim-witted lawyer had his license revoked for conspiracy to defraud the justice system, and me personally, the Department of Child Welfare notified that my offspring from the first marriage would be placed in foster care if my parents or I didn't take them into our custody. I relayed to my parents that they could take in these selfish brats themselves. My father told me that someday I'd have to forgive them all, then asked, "Is it really so bad that they and my mother want to be part of their grandchildren's lives? We're already old, son, and as much as we'd like to, we'll have to miss out on a big part of their lives," he sighed. "With your marriage, you just gave up and moved on. But what about us, Billy? Are you really so heartless that you can't see she made a mistake?" My dad persisted. "No," I responded with patient weariness. "There's nothing wrong with wanting to be involved in their lives, but I disagree with you. Casey didn't make a mistake. She was a cold-hearted bitch who eventually got what she deserved. As for the kids, they willingly chose that asshole and happily ran off to him from our home. Remember, Dad, you used to tell me that there are things in life that can't be forgiven, and you also warned me, saying that the road to hell is paved with good intentions. You haven't forgotten your words, have you? And what happened next, Dad? Then you just turned your back on me. And Mom, by the way, did too. The reality is, Casey lied, deceived, and turned the kids against me. And after all of that, you still sided with her. Meaning, you acted against me, Patty, and my family. Now you want me to act like nothing has changed. Dad, you're mature enough to understand that you made the wrong choice. And now, well now, you, just like Mom, have to live with the consequences. What I've told you about happened 10 years ago. Alas, after all that happened back then, Casey never learned her lesson. She remarried and attempted to deceive her new husband, just as she did with me. Again, nothing good came out of her double life, only different consequences of her infidelity. The new husband caught Casey with her latest lover and killed them both. He was so vehemently opposed to being cuckolded that he tied the lovers to the bed they were having sex on, doused them with gasoline, lit a match, and left. What remained of Casey had to be identified by dental records. Our children with Casey have grown up and live according to how they were raised. Devin and Patrick are serving time in prison. As for Joy, well, before anything bad could happen to her, she came to our home and begged to be part of our family. Kind-hearted Patty insisted that the wayward mother had led Joy astray from moral values, and we should welcome her and help the young girl lead an honest and worthy life going forward. My parents did manage to meet our children with Patty before they left this world. In their will, they left everything to my discretion but asked me to fairly distribute their belongings among all 7 of their grandchildren. As for Patty and me, the day isn't far off when we'll become parents, owners of an empty nest. And then I intend to save her every moment when my beloved wife belongs to me and me alone again. Perhaps for some of you, Billy Capps is a jerk because he didn't fight to save the family, or because he walked away from it all. But I, Billy, will say this. Some things just aren't worth fighting for. And we'll see you on the Cheating Secrets channel.